Welcome back, everybody, to Cinema Daily US. I'm Matthew Schuchman, and today we're here to talk about Spider-Noir, the new Spider-Man adjacent television show on Amazon Prime, which is also technically adjacent to the Spider-Noir you're used to if you were introduced to him in the Into the Spider-Verse films, or I should say the Spider-Verse films, because while it is Nicolas Cage doing Spider-Noir, this is technically a different character away from the character that appeared in those stories. So with that, let's get talking about the positives and negatives, and I'm actually going to start with the negatives. I will talk about this a little later when I get to the positives, because the show does look great, but there are times that I feel that a little too much of it gets taken away from a great job they did at making a realistic looking show. While there's always a kind of a CGI looking panel to it, it's because it's meant to look like a certain style, an old comic style, and they do it really well. But every so often, a little of it comes off a little too hokey and starts to take me away from it. Not a lot, but a little. And again, I'm not trying to say it looks bad because I'll get to that in the positives because there's a lot to talk about, but I have to mention it in this part. Also, to that matter, is Nicolas Cage's gumshoe Sam Spade accent. While I know what he's doing and it's clearly meant to be in whether you want to call it an homage, a knockoff, an imitation of that old style speech, it's meant to be that way. But sometimes it's a little too grating. He's pushing it on a little too heavy. And as much as I love Nicolas Cage when he does weird things, there are times here where it feels like I just don't need to hear it anymore. Also, with that, story wise, while it does a great job at following the one, two, threes, the paint by numbers, if you will, of a classic film noir, hard cracked PI story, in the world of the superhero universe, whether you want to consider it the MCU or not, but in the Marvel universe, we'll call it, because it's still in that universe. A lot of it, even though there are films and media, books, plays that felt weighty, even though they're fictional stories, there's something about how they feel so real that make them so important. Where this, because it's in that own universe, even though it may be interesting, a lot of the outcomes and the full unveiled story, if you will, doesn't feel like it has enough weight to it. It's interesting, it's fun, and it's a good thing to witness. But I'm not going to go be talking about this down the road like it's a life-changing story because it's not, unfortunately. Now on to the positives. Look, I know I said some of it can sometimes take you away with the way it looks sometimes. And again, I watched it all in black and white. I did turn to color every so often when I wanted to see, because you have that option, to see what some of the really special effects kind of looked like in the color, but I mainly watched it in black and white, and it looks fantastic. And I honestly, even though I say that there are parts of it that get you taken out of it a little bit, this is the closest we've come, I think, to that old Warren Beatty, Dick Tracy style that he knocked out of the park in the late 80s and hasn't been recreated since. This is the first time you've gotten that close, and you got to give the team props for being able to pull it together like that because it is really something to look at. And there's a lot of on location stuff, granted, and so it's not all green screens and all this other special effects, but there is a lot to be happy about with how they ultimately pulled off the look of this thing. Will I go back and watch it in full in color just to see if I feel differently about it? Probably not. I think it was meant to be watched in black and white personally, so I'm watching it in black and white, and that's the way I did it. That's up to you. If you want to come back and tell me something otherwise, hey, you feel differently after you watch it in either way, both ways, whatever you want. Also, with that, I do, and as much as I also said in the negatives, this idea that the story doesn't feel as fulfilling as maybe some other classic, Big Easy, Chinatown, Lately Confidential type, stories go. They do a great job of painting those same types of pictures. They do have that great, one half story where you feel like everything's resolved and it turns itself on its head a little bit halfway through to realize there's a lot more to the story than there is. Again, even as it's not that consequential to me, it's a great job of pulling out what should be a film noir story. And I also got to look, there's a lot of great performance in this. Everybody's good, nobody's bad. So don't make it sound like I'm saying people aren't that good because I'm saying one thing about one person. But Lucas Haas, somebody I've been watching since as a kid, for myself, as a kid as him, since the 80s, and Solar Babies. Who are my Solar Babies people at? Anyway, he truly pulls off that 1930s gangster style without overdoing it. And like he's always done great work. I've never seen him like be horrible. And granted, he's maybe something like Mars Attacks is a little weird because it's supposed to be weird. He's on naturally he's gangly, but the what he does here. And look, you can talk about this compared to his role in Brick. And I'm not going to go too far into it if you haven't seen Brick, because there's in a lot of ways maybe a similarity between the characters. But here, he really pulls off. It feels like somebody reached into the 1930s, pulled somebody out of a film, and then threw him in here. It's so effortless and so perfect that I gotta give the guy praise over everybody else, even though everybody else is great too. Got to give the guy praise. And with that, I'm not going to go too far into the rest of the story. That's for you to discover while you watch it. I'm going to give you my final grade, which is a B. It leads a little more toward a B plus, but I'm going to go with a B because I don't feel like I'm going to be rewatching Spider-Noir that much. I don't feel like I'm going to go watch it again in color. I don't feel like I'm going to watch it a year from now again. It's kind of like a one and done thing for me. Maybe one day down the road, I'll be like, oh, it'll be interesting to watch again. But because of that, I'm going to give it a B as my final grade. So thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, have a great one.